All right guys, what's up? Killer Toy Tops back here again in the garage. And this is the official install video for our roof rack. What we have here is everything you're gonna get in the box laid out on the hood of Bino. Bino is one of our test rigs. This is the Killer Toy Tops cab portion of the roof rack. It's a super easy install. One of the things that highlights how easy this is the under brackets. These make this install a pinch. It's super, super easy. This goes back into an area that you could barely even get a wrench into. So having this designed the way that this has been designed makes it more accessible, makes it a lot easier to line everything up and be able to disperse that weight. One of the things I want to mention too is on this roof rack, the reason why we have not done a gutter mount version yet is because we've tested a lot of different gutter mount racks. And the gutters on these are just not designed to hold weight. They're only pinch welded and then seam sealed. So they're not even fully welded and they just don't hold up. Even if you're only running a light bar, these aren't holding up as long term as we'd like them to. So we might have something in the future. We might find a bit of a compromise. We may offer what we have just because we have a lot of people asking for it. But as of right now, we just don't feel comfortable releasing a product that's gonna cause damage to these vehicles long term. And we have not found a gutter mount system that won't cause damage. So there you go, there's your explanation of that. All right, so here's what you're gonna need to get this installed. Again, we've made this as simple as possible to get it installed. I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking for some people to drill into the roof of your vehicle, and we're gonna show you how to do that safely, securely, so you don't damage the headliner, and also how to do a successful install on this with minimal amount of damage going on. It is a drill install, but this is the best for the longevity of the vehicle as far as our testing is, and we've been pretty vigorous on our testing. What you're gonna need to install this roof rack is you're gonna need a drill. This is an impact, but we're gonna pretend it's a drill. So you're gonna need a drill, you're gonna need an Allen. We've got an Allen chalked up in the impact. And then you're gonna want some tape and a marker. Not necessary, but it's really nice to have a pair of nippers for installing the trim piece. Stepper bits. Stepper bits are they're also known like Christmas tree bits or doing things like that, but it's multiple sizes of drill bits, but in one. What this does is this prevents from slamming through. When you have a normal drill bit like this, and it gets to a point in the metal where it breaks through and then all of a sudden punches really far, if you've got anything down here, like a headliner that's just soft fabric, this could go straight through that. Another preventative measure is they make blocks and stops. Now that's like a collar that goes on there, so you can get a collar for your drill bit if you want to go that route. The other route is to remove your headliner before you get started. We've removed the headliner on this so that you can see exactly how it looks from the underside, and so this wouldn't really be super critical in our application, but we prefer using a stepper bit. If you have a stepper bit, this is the recommended way to go because it won't slam through. It just gets a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And then it also, if you need to make the hole a little bit better, you just go to the next step. You're gonna need a tape measure, and that is pretty much it. So pretty simple on the tools. All right, so when you get your kit, you're gonna open it up. What you're gonna get is pretty much everything you see here except for the tools. So we've laid everything out fairly nicely so we can see that pretty well. But you're gonna have all of the hardware that you need, and this is all stainless steel hardware. So it's less likely to corrode and to rust, much longer lifespan on that. We have 3 crossbars. So you're gonna have a front and a rear, and then you'll also have a front plate one. And then we have a front plate, which is this section right here. You're gonna have some gasket material, both that goes on the front plate and some that goes underneath. So this is a prototype piece. So what you get might be just a little bit different. This is one of our test rigs. This is a test unit. We're actually testing something for the future with this. These are made out of carbon steel. And so we're testing to see the longevity of the carbon steel with the aluminum. This is galvanized, but that's why it's gonna look a little bit different. Right now, we're only selling the all aluminum kits. So that's why if this one looks a little bit different than what you have, all the install is gonna be exactly the same. So all the steps will be identical. You get your kit and you unbox it. This is everything. We've laid everything out here, just kind of nice, neat, and organized. so that we can see exactly what you have. You're gonna have a left bracket and a right bracket. You're gonna have a left and right under bracket. You're gonna have a face plate, and then there will be 3 crossbars and all the hardware. You're also gonna receive 2 gaskets, one for going underneath the left and right side brackets, which will waterproof the cab. After drilling the holes, it will seal up on top and seal from any water. It's gonna clamp down on there nice and tight. It's great weather stripping, and it'll seal up the cab so you will not have any leaking issues. If you don't trust that, you're welcome to use some silicone on there. That's also another option. It's just a little bit messier, and when you pull the roof rack off, could cause more problems with trying to get that silicone up out of the paint. This stuff does not stick to the paint. You unbolt it, you pull it off, you put your plugs in, and you're done. Super easy. So let's go over the first few steps. The first step of assembling your roof rack is this faceplate. So we're gonna take this faceplate, and the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna install this gasket. This is a sail strip style gasket. It's just a little pinch on it. And so this goes on fairly smoothly. We're gonna pinch this on, and then we're gonna install a crossbar behind that. In order to do that, we're gonna assemble all of our hardware into the faceplate, and then we're gonna slide the crossbar through. All right, so this is pretty straightforward. This one's a little bulkier than what we're sending out in our current kits. It's a little bit more streamlined. Again, this is a prototype package, so we're using a little bit of spare parts on what we have, so that we can ship you guys the nice ones. And this just goes on pretty easily. And if you find on this one, this is again a little bit thinner gauge because this is carbon steel. So the aluminum ones are cut out of 1/8 inch aluminum. So this stays on there really well. This one is a little bit easier to go on than yours might be. If you're having issues putting it on, one of the tricks is to roll this back, and that'll open this up right there, and then push it on like that. You get into your corners, you just push that in nice and tight. If it's this instance and it's loose, one of the things you can do is you can actually pinch this together, and you can do this by hand. You can do this with a set of pliers. Just be careful not to damage. This is rubber, so if you go ham on it, you can definitely go through it. But now you can see that that's grabbing just a little bit better. We pinch that up. So, and then we just want to go ahead and trim this to length. And there's ribs in here, so we're just going to go behind this rib and kind of force it out and pull this back so I don't scratch our product here. Okay. Looking good. Now this is installed, and this is ready for crossbar. So the next step, let's put our hardware together. What we're going to use for this faceplate is the 1/2 inch. We have some 1/2 inch and we have 1 1/4. And we are going to be using the 1/2 inch hardware. So this 1/2 inch hardware is going to have a lock washer on it first. And then we're going to put a flat washer. Again, this is all stainless steel, including the lock washers and the flat washers. And these T-nuts, these are also stainless steel. So we're just going to do these up. And we're going to take these. It doesn't really matter whether this is up or down strength-wise, especially for the faceplate. I like to run this knob inside the extrusion for maximum strength when I'm bolting loads or different things like that to this extrusion. But this is just a faceplate, and so if it is easier to run the knob up, it starts a little bit easier. If that's what works for you, then run it that way. But we're just gonna get it started. We don't want to thread this tight. We just want to go in until the threads are flush with the bottom. All right, so you can see now there, that would probably work too if it's just poking out a little bit. I like to go flush. We're gonna go ahead and do that to all 10 of these. All right, now we have everything assembled. There's 10 of them, and we've got the flat washers, we've got our lock washers, and our button head hardware. We've got all of our T-nuts on the back side. Again, the T-nuts, the orientation on this particular thing doesn't really matter a whole lot if I was loading it. I feel like it's a little bit stronger. There's no technical proof behind that. I just feel like it is a hair stronger with the button down. But this is all set up. All we're gonna do is slide our crossbar on. So I'm gonna lay this down face down. If you wanna put a blanket under there to protect the powder coating, that's it's a good idea. I wanna talk about our crossbars really quickly. Before we put this on the faceplate, these have relief cuts, and that allows for drop-in T-nuts. So we sell additional packs of T-nuts. They can just drop right in and move around. You can also use carriage bolts if you want the bolts to be sticking up. You can attach pretty much anything to whatever you can bolt stuff down on. There's two different ways. If you want the bolt flush, then you can run the T-nut inside. The bolt goes into the extrusion. The bolt goes into the crossbar. If you want to have threads coming up, you get a 1/4 inch by 20 carriage bolt, which has the square base at the bottom. It has a big round head and then a square base right above it. That square base will lock in this channel, and it will prevent it from twisting. It will prevent it from twisting so that you can bolt on any kind of accessories. So all we're gonna do here is I'm gonna leave these facing up. So my faceplate is now facing down. These are gonna be facing up. It's gonna make things a little bit easier to install this. And if I wanna install light bar brackets or anything off of the back side of this, it's gonna be easier for me to do that. Okay, so now that we've left these a little bit loose, we can just get them started. So you just line them up. You can do one at a time, and then just slide them on in. Get to your next couple. And it helps if you pick it up and work it from underneath here. This is honestly the hardest part of the whole thing. Unless you're drill shy, and then drilling into your truck is the hardest part. So now we've gotten 2 sets lined up. It's pretty straight. Okay, so our faceplate is now on our extrusion. We are going to go ahead and tighten these up. We're not going to over tighten them. I just want to keep things from moving around. But before I do that, I want to make sure we're centered. So there will be a little bit of a lip. And that's because the crossbars are just short enough that the side bracket will fit in right here. So when the side bracket's on, the thickness here of the side bracket, again, this is a prototype, so it's a little bit thinner, but your thickness will cover about 3/4 of your side bracket. Just make sure that they're even side to side and that this crossbar is basically center of that faceplate. And we're just gonna go ahead and tighten these up. Now, if you lose a nut inside the extrusion here, it is a bit of a pain because you'll have to pull it apart enough to slide the nut back up to line it up. So you want to make sure that you have that nut, you want to make sure you have your bolt flush to the back side of the nut when you're going together. That helps prevent that. And I like starting in the middle, working towards the outside. It just makes it a little easier to keep it centered. Okay. So that's together. That's pretty much ready to go. Next thing's going to be putting the side brackets on. So that's what we'll move to. Okay, so we have 18 of these. You're going to have 6 for each side of your side brackets that go into the crossbars, and you'll have another 6 that go down into the roof to your under brackets. They're all the same size and they're all stainless. Same thing, you're going to take your bolt, you're going to put a lock washer on, and then we're going to put a flat washer on. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to do that to all these bolts real quick. All right, so now that we have our washers on our hardware, that's gonna make things go a little bit faster. We just took a minute and did all of that. Now it's time to go ahead and put the crossbars on. And we're actually going to take one of the crossbars and we're gonna set this aside for the time being. So we're not gonna use this for that first. So we're just gonna put that in a safe place. And I also know that it's gonna take 4 of these. So we're gonna take 4 of those and just put them in. Okay, so now what I wanna do is we're just gonna take these crossbars and the side brackets. All right, so you're gonna notice that we have 4 bolts here. Mainly this was for prototyping and testing. Typically you're gonna run in the top 2. We have some people that like running in the middle 2. I have not seen anybody run the bottom 2. So we're just gonna install this in the top here. It's the cleanest look and it's the look that we're going for with this specific truck. Now there's the powder coating on these can make it just a bit tight. It's all laser cut, so everything is very, very precise on these. And because we're going into aluminum, we want to make sure that we get these started correctly before we go zipping them down, because aluminum can cross thread very, very easily. And again, I'm not going to tighten these up all the way. I'm just going to take our time getting that in. We're gonna leave that just a little bit loose. So we're gonna do the same on the other side, and then we'll have both of our side brackets on. Same song, second verse. All right, now we're starting to look like a roof rack. So this roof rack is coming together pretty well, and we've got the faceplate on, we've got the side brackets on. Now it's time to set this up. Now, the reason we have holes from front to rear here is because we want to be able to add crossbars and position the crossbars anywhere you want without the risk of having them slip and slide if hardware gets a little bit loose. The hardware on this can come loose just a little bit. Your brackets, your crossbars, everything's gonna stay where it's supposed to be. These relief slots are only on one side. So if you want to run them, you can run them up. It makes it really easy to drop in hardware and go. If you're concerned about having something that might come loose a little bit and it slides there, or maybe this worries you or you don't really want this feature for aesthetic looks, simply flip over the crossbar, and this side does not have any relief cuts in it. So it's perfectly clean, smooth, if that's the look you're going for. So this is for easy access to drop in bolts and add different features. Adding or removing stuff is super simple here. If you want a cleaner look, or you have something that bolt lines up, happens to be right where those relief slots are, then you can flip it over and you have options there. So these can run this way, they can run upside down, you can flip them over side by side. They're super versatile on how you want to run them. We are going to be running them up, and we're also going to be running these on the driver's side of the truck, and we'll just have them both on the driver's side. So when we go to add stuff, we already know we're going to drop in from the driver's side of the truck and then slide it towards the passenger side. The other thing is, when we're setting this up, however you want your final setup to be, for right now we're going to set the crossbar up as far back as we can go without covering this hole right here. We want to be able to have access to this hole because we're going to mark the truck later, and we're also going to be installing hardware through that hole. We want the crossbar in so that it gives us a defined length, and it also gives us rigidity when we're installing this so that we don't drill a hole in the wrong place. But we're going to move it probably right there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but one thing you do want to make sure is you want to make sure that you are in the same position on both sides. So I have 3 vacant holes here, and I'm going to make sure I have 3 vacant holes on the other side. And again, I'm not going all the way tight, especially until I've got all my hardware in. So now that I have hardware all the way around, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna go around and tighten everything up. It's a lot easier to get all the hardware started, keep it a little bit loose so things are a little more mobile, and then once everything's all started, we're gonna go ahead and tighten down. And if you're gonna be moving the crossbar later, maybe you want it all the way to the rear, you want it more forward, and depending on where you want it, you don't have to have these super tight. You want it to be able to hold its form and rigidity and basically get your square measurement going here. All right, the next step is to find center. On the front, we made things super easy. There are bolts right dead center of this faceplate. So if you have this center of the rack, your 2 bolts right here are dead center. That's already done for you. We're gonna find center of the rear, and then I'm gonna show you how to find center of the cab. These are 43 inches, and these are very precisely cut by our manufacturing process. And so you can rest assured 43 divided by 2 is 21.5. So we're gonna find 21.5. We're gonna measure this from both sides to 21.5 and make sure that we're on dead center. So we're gonna get some tape, we're gonna wrap it around this, we're gonna add some marks. All right, so here I know that these bolts are dead center, which is gonna make things super easy for us. So we're just gonna go ahead and put some tape on them. If you want, you can run a square, a triangle, or something like that down here and just run your line all the way down the middle. We're just gonna pull a measurement from each end and do it that way. All right. So I know that we're adding a little bit here, so I'm just gonna come in and check and see how much we're adding. It looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch. So we're gonna be 41, so we're gonna be, instead of 21.5, we're gonna be about 21 5/8. So we're gonna 21 5/8, and we're gonna put a mark. And then we're just gonna measure from the other side, and that lets us know that our mark is accurate. So that, as you can see, 21 5/8. It is just a hair off. So we can correct that even right here. We come in just a smidge. All right, 21 5/8. Now we're just gonna do the same thing for the back side. I don't wanna use a ton of tape because I don't have to. I know that we're gonna be basing this off of the back, so I'm gonna make sure this wraps around the back. And that's really all you're gonna need. Let's go ahead and flip this around. All right, so one of the things you want to make sure you do here, one, always measure from both sides and make sure you have the same measurement from both sides. One of the things I've seen people do here is this crossbar is exactly 43 inches, but they measure it from the outside of the side brackets. That's going to add 3/16 of an inch because the aluminum side brackets are 3/16. This is 1/8 inch because this is carbon galvanized, and so it's a little bit different thickness. But measuring from the inside is the best way to go. So I'm gonna measure from the inside here, and I'm gonna come 21.5 and make more mark. And again, we're gonna go ahead and measure from the other side and make sure that we're spot on, which we are. Okay, so we're dead on 21.5. Now we're gonna do the same thing to find center of the truck. We're gonna position this rack roughly where we want it. We're gonna put our tape down, and then once our tape is down, we'll pull measurements from both sides and make sure that we are centered. All right, so once we get the roof rack up basically where we want it to be, the way that we do that is once it's all assembled and you have the faceplate where you want it, go ahead and push it back until that faceplate just barely touches. You don't want a lot of pressure, but just barely touches the cab of the truck. Now that we have it kind of roughly where we want it, we know where to put our tape. We're gonna put our tape down, and then we're gonna mark our tape where center is, front and rear. And that's gonna help us line the roof rack up so that when we drill the holes, everything's in the right spot. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so now that we have the roof rack out of the way, we've got our tape here, we just need to find out where the center of the cab is and mark the tape. So really the best way to do that is we're gonna take an educated guess. We're gonna measure from the same spot on both sides. We're gonna get a total measurement, we're gonna divide it by 2, and that'll be our first mark. So in this one, we're just gonna go ahead and hook it on the rain gutter. And then we're just gonna pull that tape around, hooked on that side. I'm gonna roll it around, and it is slickery. 51 1/4. So we're just gonna take that and divide it by 2, which gives us 25 5/8. And we're just gonna put a little mark, it doesn't have to be big. And we're gonna go ahead and check it from the other side. And if it's off a little bit, it's not a big deal. We can figure out where center is by how far off we are. All right, so you can tell, so that's pretty accurate there. Again, it doesn't have to be, it's as precise as you want it to be. On us, we're less than a 1/16 of an inch off, which is not gonna be noticeable by the naked eye. It's not gonna have any type of performance repercussions. It's gonna look good, it's gonna flow good, it's gonna feel good, and it's gonna put the footprint where we want it to be. Now, as you can see, this is what we call the oil pan effect. So this roof is oil panning. So if you were to sit something on this roof and it's got a significant amount of weight, it'll oil pan there. On the edge, that's a lot more rigid. And you can also tell here in the center, hear that oil panning? That's on this curve. Now there's reinforcements up here, and it's a lot more solid. So this is where we've designed our footprint to land. And again, in the back, there's more reinforcements there. We also have a wide footprint. It's 1.5 inches wide, which means your load is distributed across that. One of the things that is really difficult with designing a gutter mount roof rack is that your footprint is only 3/16 or 1/8 of an inch wide. And so you can only distribute so much weight upon that footprint because your PSI is way higher because you're not dispersing the load. With these, where your footprint is spreading that load out, you can have a heavier load, and it's designed to spread that load out over more surface area so it's less damaging to the vehicle in the long run. That's why we've designed this the way we have. So now that we have our back mark, we're gonna do the same thing on the front. We're gonna get our front mark, and then we're gonna drop this on and mark where to drill the holes. So let's get after it. So doing the front is a little more tricky. You're gonna wanna make sure you have roughly the same angle and elevation. We're gonna communicate here. I want the tape to just be in the corner of this windshield right here. And then he's gonna adjust on his side. He's holding the camera too, so give him a break if he's not filming correctly right now. And I'm also gonna try and pull this tight. So it's a bit of a trick. So I'm gonna pull this tight on him, make sure I'm in the same spot, and measure that out. And it is 51 1/8. 51 1/8 divided by 2.
Don't
Same
look at
as
me.
last time. That's 25 5. Well, actually be 25 9/16. Let me see. So pull this tight again like we were, and we're just gonna take this 25 9/16. I'm gonna make a mark there. Again, if you're off by a 1/16, it should not affect the performance of this at all. So right here, sit down, and we are right on the money at 25 9/16. All right, so at this point, one thing if you wanted to do it to be extra sure is you can take a string like a chalk line, for example, and you can go between your center mark in the rear and your center mark in the front, and you can snap a line that will be the dead center of the cab front to back. That way you can adjust your cab a little bit more. We're just gonna go off of these 2 measurements because that's all you really need. But if you really wanna dial it in, and if you wanna use that skill in the future, that gives you the center line of the cab, and you'll be centered from the front to the rear. As long as you keep it straight, you'll be centered at any point along that center line. For us, we're just gonna drop this rack on, and let's get it in. So again, we're gonna drop the rack on. You can see that there's a gap right here. We're gonna slide it back until there's no more gap. And we're gonna line up our marks. A little easier without the roof rack in there. There. Okay, now we're gonna take a look without moving it. Let's take a look. All right, so I'm gonna look at it dead on from the front and see how it looks side to side. And what I'm looking for is kind of the same amount of spacing on the corners. I want to see, you know, where does it land on this corner, and does it look about the same on this corner? Does it look straight if I step back a little bit? Look at it. This is our final positioning right here. Again, if you want to run a full center line from front to rear, you're more than welcome to do that. It's the most accurate way to go, and I would recommend that. For us, we've done a lot of these installs. We know roughly where it's supposed to sit, and we're really comfortable with this process. And so for us, we also are okay with the results if they're just a little bit off. So you can be as accurate as you want to be. It's kind of cool. So for us, this is Matt's rig. So let's bring Matt in and see what he thinks.
All right, well, you want to take a camera?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I think she looks good. Definitely is probably the straightest thing on this rig for if we're looking close. But definitely lucked out with the clearance here with my roof tent as well. But I think we're looking golden. Yeah. Can't wait to get the rest of it finished out so I can mount my lights and have whatever else I need on here. Just try to ignore the windshield job was definitely not done by me. Definitely not done by me.
Definitely not done by you.
No. So just keep your eyes on the rack and just ignore the rest of this here. But yeah, I think we're looking good.
Okay, so this is a little bit easier with the shell off, so you can stand in the bed and have a little bit easier access. Helps you line things up. We're not going to do that because it is also possible to be done this way. We've got everything lined up. Now what we're going to do is very carefully, without moving anything, we're going to mark, and you can put tape down at this point too. If you want to tape underneath here and mark on the tape, more than welcome to do that. But I'm going to mark out each of these circles just directly on here without moving anything. Again, when we set this up to have access to this hole back here. That's why we did that, because now we can come in and we can mark that hole without disrupting anything, without having to change where the crossbar is. All right, now all we got to do is remove the roof rack, drill the holes, and then we'll do our final placement and we'll bolt it in place.
Okay, so with our step bit, we're gonna be just eyeball where you're gonna be going. We're gonna be going 1 past quarter, right about here. I'll start there, and then if we need to go any further, we will continue drilling further down. Okay, took it down about that far. To the next one.
All right, so now that we have our holes drilled and we've committed at this point, everything lines up pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and remove all of our tape. And now we just need to bolt this in. So let's talk about the brackets. All right, so here we have 2 brackets and they are mirrored of each other. These will have a little handle on them, and this little handle makes it super easy to install. The handle goes towards the front, towards the inside of the cab, and down. So it'll sit flush on the roof line of the vehicle. So this allows us to put this far back bolt back where it'd be very difficult to get a wrench on. The front 2 are a little more accessible, but they're still a little bit tight to get to. So this is gonna allow us to get these in. So these, you can see our holes are here. This slides back and these bolts just line up right there. So what we're gonna do again, we're gonna go ahead and we're going to start all three on this side. We'll start all three on that side. Be a little bit more on the gentle side, get everything started, slowly tighten it down, and then once everything's pretty snug, then you can go ahead and we'll tighten up the rest of the way. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. We're gonna have one hand underneath and one hand on top, and that's how we're gonna do this. Well, that flashlight helps here. Again, I can use that handle to position that exactly where it needs to be. All right, so one thing I want to mention here is actually gaining access to underneath. Now, we've already removed it on this truck, but the headliner is super accessible here. It is glued in, so there's a couple of things we got to do. First, you're going to come to this, which looks familiar because this is very similar to what we installed right here. So we're just going to grab in the middle and we're going to pull it down. Now you can see that there's some glue remnants here. You want to be very careful and start at the corners. Work your way very slowly, peeling the headliner from one side to the other. Once you get it peeled off, there's a little bit of glue left on this inner side right here. So not really a whole lot, but there can be just a little bit. And that's really all the access you need. Once you get it to this point, you can pull it down a little bit further. There's 3 spring bars in there that you can move around. But once you get that off, you can get this up inside. You get this bracket in there and hold on to it, but just slipping your hand up there, it makes it super easy to get this roof rack on. You do not have to remove the entire headliner. We just removed the entire headliner so that it's easier for you to see exactly what the brackets are doing on the inside up there. Now that you've seen what it does, you can actually get inside with just your hand, line everything up from the top, and secure it that way. Once you get these started, then go ahead and torque them down. Take your time getting them started because that's going to be critical. All right, so the roof rack's on. We got it all torqued down. It's all tightened up. Now, last thing that we got to do is add that other crossbar and put the other crossbars wherever you want them. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then this install is wrapped up. Well, the last thing to do after that is to go ahead and reinstall the headliner. The easiest way to do that is to pull the headliner tight and then install that seal strip right on top of it, pinching it in place. If you want to use more glue or adhesive, I recommend 3M's 90+ spray adhesive. You can spray it into a lid, you can spray it into a cup, and you can apply that with a Q-tip or with a paintbrush. Makes for a really easy, clean install rather than spraying, getting overspray everywhere. And it also is super tacky and will hold up really well in all sorts of automotive conditions. There you go. There's the install video. And if you have any other questions, you know where to find us. It's late, so we're gonna call it a night. We'll see you on the next one.